Well, let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot to cover. A whole lot to cover. Now, on occasion, you might see my kids come in and my daughter throws something at me. This is kind of the way it goes. You never know what's going to happen. So, let's do this. I don't remember much before kindergarten. I remember what I was told. My mom and dad got pregnant, so my mom's dad would let them get married. My mom was 16 when I was born, my dad was 18. She was 15 when she got pregnant with me, and my dad was 17. I know my mom used to do actual figure skating. Yeah, she was on a Jerry Lewis telethon or whatever it was one time. And my dad had pretty much always been, well, my dad. I know that I was an easy birth. I know that I rode home on the back of a motorcycle with my mom and dad. I know that I was born in a hospital in McKinney, Texas, that is now a juvenile correction center. At least that's what I heard last it was. I haven't looked that up recently. Last time I was in Texas, oh God, I don't remember how long ago. That's what it was. A courthouse and juvenile correction facility. As far as my life goes, I don't remember much until kindergarten. I remember my kindergarten teacher's face. She had this very sweet, kind face. All the students absolutely adored her because, well, we, it's not, she was just this sweet, loving person. I don't remember much of first grade. I remember some stuff about second grade. I had a teacher, Miss Peterson. We had pool parties at her house. I remember a few of my friends. My first childhood crush. Hell, I even still remember her name, Destry? Something like that, yeah. I remember my great-grandfather. He was this old stoic man. Kind-hearted. Sweet. Didn't say much. Didn't like most of the great-grandkids because they were loud and obnoxious. He would sit with me, though, because I was quiet and I would draw, and it wasn't really an issue. I remember, unfortunately, too many things. And then after kindergarten was when things started really getting to me. There's a lot of things that I blocked out and I pretended didn't happen. I made up stories about my childhood that were not real because I didn't want to face the fact of what really happened. I made up a lot of things to protect myself emotionally from all the bad things. It was never good. It was never great. I remember missing holidays because of my dad's addictions. I remember going to parties with my parents and all the kids being locked in a bedroom upstairs so the adults could get wasted on whatever they felt like downstairs. I remember moving from house to house because Dad never paid the rent or paid the bills. I remember having to help Dad turn the water on illegally and all kinds of things. But what I remember the most is the abuse. It started with my dad. He would get messed up, not remember what was happening, not know where he was. I'd come in and ask him if he could turn the TV down so I could get some sleep, and he would get mad and backhand me and knock me across the room. And then when he came sober the next day, he didn't remember any of it. He acted like it never happened. And mom was an enabler, so I don't know if she remembered or not. I never bothered to ask. I just got really quiet. I stopped talking, I stopped asking, I started drawing and disappearing into that. I remember one time there was a Halloween that we wanted to go trick or treating. We were really excited about it. Dad was out doing one of his deals, one of his big deals to make us rich. I don't know what he was buying or selling, but he thought he was going to make us rich. We were supposed to go out for trick or treating around, I think it was 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. He gets home at midnight with excuses. My mom's yelling at him because we were supposed to go trick or treating, and then it never happened. He forced us to put our costumes on, and we drove out to the rich neighborhoods at midnight. And he forced us to go up to these strangers' houses at midnight, and we're talking in the 80s, knocking on their door for candy. Most of the time, they never answered. A couple people answered and didn't have anything left. So we went home, and that was the end of it. That was pretty much what holidays were. The only time that holidays were special were when my my mom's mom pulled everybody together for family dinners. It was always so weird, especially when my aunt's husband, my uncle Kerry, was there. He was an odd one. He was one of my dad's friends. That's how he met my aunt, and he had, we'll just say he had issues. But I remember one time he sat beside me, and it's out of nowhere. He's like, if you're ever constipated and you need help, you just stick your finger up there, wiggle a little bit, of help. And he's sitting there telling this to a kid. And I'm talking like I was young, too. Like, I was probably 6, 7 at the time when he said this. I was really young. It was always really awkward with him. And there comes a device. Hold on. There you go.
But then,
Yeah, I told you sometimes it happens. But going back to what I was talking about, that was where the abuse started. It was never remembered the next day, never talked about. The subject was always avoided. So I just had to live with it. And then in the 80s, there wasn't all these emergency numbers you could call or people you could text to get help. As a kid, you were alone. And if you went to the cops would just call your parents. Nobody cared. They saw it as child being raised right or being punished for disrespecting their father. They didn't see it as abuse. And unfortunately, I don't scar very easily. I have a few scars on my fingertips, which we'll get to those later. I know I have a scar on the back of my head. But Yeah, I never have scarred easily, and unfortunately that didn't help very much. People don't believe you, they don't see scars. There's no evidence. I always wonder what would happen if you peeled my skin back and looked at the muscle and tissue underneath. I always wonder what. Sometimes I wish you could see the scars that aren't physical. It would change the way people perceive other people if they could see the emotional scars, the mental scars, which most people don't realize this, but emotional scars and mental scars are two very different things. Emotional scars trouble you. They cause depression. They hurt you. They haunt you. Mental scars, those affect how you interact with people directly. They are the reason why you behave certain ways. They are the reason why you don't trust people. They are the reason why you double think everything anybody says. They are the reason why the words I love you becomes a liability. It's not an emotional response. It's a self-preservation. It's a taught mechanism. You learn that people that say I love you are only going to hurt you. And that's the reason why I say mental and emotional scars are very different. I think as a society we need to understand that. Emotional scars can heal over time. With the right therapy, the right help, the right people around you, emotional scars can eventually fade. Mental scars are permanently part of who you are. They're part of your decision-making process. They're part of your reactionary process. They're part of how you live every day, whether you realize it or not. Those scars will be with you until the day you die. To this day, I have a hard time touching model cars because of my grandfather. I don't like to, I don't want to, and I have no use for building model cars. Especially classic cars, 40s, 50s models. Because that was what he collected. But, yeah. My dad was interesting. When he was sober, he was happy and fun and goofy and playing around, and they liked playing Nintendo. I remember them all sitting around the game system playing Gauntlet for hours and hours on end. I remember watching them just goof off and hang out, and it was always fun seeing them that way. But the moment he got high on anything, he turned into a very different person. If he was stoned, he was kind of chill, laid back, but angry. And you could tell he was angry. And you could always tell it was laced with something else. When it was laced with other stuff was when he stopped remembering things. Kind of convenient, huh? Uh, Unfortunately, this is all a little bit hard to talk about, so I apologize. But and there's more to come. I'm gonna try to keep these to 20 minutes max. But I learned at an early age to protect myself. I learned at an early age that the words "I love you" came with strings attached. I love you except for when I'm high. I love you except for when I'm drunk. I love you except for when you do this or that. Love was conditional, and love was weaponized. If you love me, you'll do this for me. You love me, you'll do that for me. If you love me, you'll carry this stuff in your backpack and drop it off to Daddy's friend. And Daddy's friend will give you some money, and you got to make sure you bring all that money back to Daddy, because if you love Daddy, you'll bring it all back to him. You won't spend any of it, right? Love is a tool to be used to get what you want from people, and an excuse to get around hurting those people. I think that was the hardest lesson as a kid to learn. That love was a worthless word. It was a tool and nothing more. It took me until 5 months ago to learn that that's not what love was. To learn that what I had learned and I was taught by life and my family was wrong. Now, as a 41-year-old adult, I finally have a new definition for what love is. Love is a simple thing, but a big thing. It's a very big thing. To tell somebody that you're in love with them is a promise. It's a promise that you will always put them first. It's a promise that you will always care for them. It's a promise that you will never lie to them or exploit them. It's a promise that you will never use that love as a leverage. It's a promise that when they are in their darkest, no matter what it is, you will be there for them. You will never judge them. And above all else, you will always respect them. And I know that sounds odd, saying respect was the last word, but it makes sense. If you really think about it, it does make sense. If you respect somebody, you will not hurt them. You will not lie to them. You will not demoralize them. You will not exploit them. You will be there for them. You will be there for them no matter how much it hurts you. And you will always be there for them, even when they're not there for you. It took me 40 years to learn that. And I pray to God that if you're watching that, you'll listen. And you'll understand what the difference is. Do not let your past define what love is for you. You have to realize that that love that you were shown was something else being called the wrong word. You have to discover what love is for yourself. You have to discover what real love is supposed to be. Do not let the ghost of your past define it as a bad word. Do not let them steal that joy from you. That most precious gift on this earth. To love someone more than life itself and to be loved in the same way. It is a very precious thing that, honestly, if you find it, do not let it go. Do everything to keep it, because it is a very rare gift. And whatever you do not let your history or your past or the people in your past cost you that. If you do, you're letting them win. Now, I'll post another video next Wednesday. And we'll go from there. There's a lot to go through. But you have a good day. Take care. Hold the ones you love close. And remember to cherish them with everything you have. Goodbye.